Hi, this is Joe Matthews, Franchise Performance Group. Thank you for signing on to our video tutorials. This video, we're going to be talking about your franchise sales process. If you're a normal, healthy, functioning franchisor, chances are your franchise sales process is a disaster. Now, why do we say that? A couple things. One would be the buying paradigm has changed significantly, and a lot of franchisors haven't caught up. Sometimes franchise salespeople, the weaker ones, will tell us things like, I don't even want to talk to somebody unless they're qualified. They send in a financial statement, asset verification, criminal report, and they just layer in all these things before they're even ready to have a conversation with a buyer. You know, our comment to that is, yeah, we only want to buy winning lottery tickets too. It's just inconsistent with how people buy. Franchise sales, when it's done right, it's a give and take of information. You give a little, you get a little, and you're just walking consistently to the buyer through the process. And the franchise sales process we talked about has to be consistent with the buying process, or it doesn't happen. I have two brothers that are educators, and there's a saying in education: we haven't taught until they learned. So they would even say there's almost no such thing as teaching, there's only learning. And if you carry that logic into franchise sales, there's only franchise buying, there's no franchise selling. And if you think about it, I'm going to talk to the franchise salespeople now. Think about the last franchisee you recruited. And at the end of the process, how would you describe that relationship? Did it look like a sales relationship? Did it look like a transactional relationship? Or was it something else? When we ask those questions, most franchise salespeople say, you know, the relationship is actually more of a friendship. I was a trusted advisor. I was a facilitator. I was a friend. I was a confidant. And then when you ask them, well, when's the last time you actually remember feeling like a salesperson? And what they say is when people aren't buying. When they feel like they have to convince or cajole or force or do takeaways or the typical hard sell techniques because people aren't moving through the process or the process is breaking down. So one, franchise candidates, they don't want to be sold. They want to be helped. They want to be supported. They want to be consulted with. They want to own a business, but they don't want to be sold the business. And then why is that good for the franchise salesperson to understand? Because remember, we talked about how the relationship ends. It's not a buy-sell relationship. So the franchise candidate doesn't want to be sold, and at the end of the process, it doesn't look like a sales process anyway, so why even begin there? You know, start with giving with the buyer what the buyer wants. Now, what does the buyer want? We found in our research, you know, that buyers go through some really distinct phases before they buy a business. First phase is self-directed, and you don't get any access to the buyer. In one of our videos, we're going to do a deep dive on that. But the self-directed thing would be they spend an immense amount of time on your website, immense amount of time comparing your opportunity to other opportunities and making a decision what their options are, and even starting to eliminate options even before they're ready to talk to anybody. Then they actually want to be qualified. You know, they want to know right up front before they invest a lot of time in the conversation, are they financially qualified? Are they in the area you're offering franchise? Are those territories available? Do they have the requisite skills and background, education, et cetera, and so on, to be a franchisee of that system? Now, why that's good for the franchisor? Because the franchise salesperson wants to qualify and doesn't want to invest that time either. So they're linked together on that. They've got some agreement on that. So the franchise salesperson will ask the franchise candidate just a bunch of questions just to get to know them as a person. So Zig Ziglar has a saying, people don't buy drills, they buy holes. And we believe that logic carries forward to the franchising. They don't want the franchise. They want their life or career or investment portfolio to perform a particular way. In other words, they don't want the franchise, they want the results. So a franchise salesperson can't possibly know what they want to get in the way of results until they do a thorough interview. Those interviews should be things like asking questions about who they are, what's their transferable skills, what's their background, what's their likes, what's their dislikes, what are the things that energize them, what are the things that shut them down, what's their particular brand of genius, and how does that actually translate to success in the franchise model? That's got to be ascertained up front. And then the overview would be, hey, given your background and what you're looking to accomplish, here's how that might occur if you become a franchisee of that system, and maybe that's in an hour meeting. The next meeting would what we call the winning formula. We want to educate the franchise candidate on the levers they need to be pulling on a day-to-day basis that make everything else work. Like, what's the revenue model? How do I hire and retain good help? How do I recruit? How do I find new customers? How do I keep them for the long haul? How do I maximize my revenue and profitability? And then how do we work together, the franchisee and franchisor, in a positive go-forward basis that make everybody's investments in time, money, and energy pay out? We call that the winning formula. And once somebody understands the business model and how it works and the genius of that model, what makes the business profitable and unique and necessary and sustainable for the long haul, then we move to the FDD. And what are we trying to do with an FTD review? It's not the time to bring in the big guns and the attorneys. All we're trying to do is identify deal killers and let them know what those 23 items mean and what their responsibilities are and what your responsibilities are. Then from there we go into a validation. Now, validation is kind of a wider bucket. That could be multiple conversations over multiple weeks. But in that validations phase, they're building out their financial models. Maybe they're doing a legal review of the franchise agreement. They're talking to franchisees and hearing from the horse's mouth what it takes to win, what they can expect from the franchisor. And then they're also setting up their financing strategies, how they're going to get this deal capitalized. From there, a lot of franchisors have a discovery day where they meet the leadership and they hear exactly what the vision of the chain is and what was going to occur predictably over the next 1 to 5 years to make sure they're on board with the long-term vision of the organization. And then once you come back from discovery day, it's decision time. It's a yes or it's a no. And we look for that to occur in 1 to 7 days. They sign the franchise agreement. Their financing should already be in place at that time. And then it's go time. It's just a simple handoff meeting between franchise sales and operations, and you got a new franchisee. That's what a good, solid, buyer-friendly process looks like.